talked about Marvel Television here previously on the show, the production unit that runs through Marvel Entertainment. It was mostly a successful experiment that lived in the same universe as its big budget movies. It was successful until it wasn't, as most know, due to the TV division being swallowed up by Marvel Studios. Some would consider its most successful product being the Netflix Pocket universe. And I mean, why wouldn't you? It had 6 separate series that all linked towards a team-up show. It's certainly been a successful TV unit because it was able to branch out to other Disney-owned networks, such as Hulu and Freeform. I'd say its biggest and most important surprise success was its first project. A project that Marvel Studios never wanted because it would basically retcon a major plot point from one of its recent films at the time. And of course, I'm talking about Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The basic premise, for those that don't know, was that Agent Phil Coulson, who was killed by Loki in the first Avengers movie, was in fact alive afterwards. We follow the adventures of his secret team of great agents within the S.H.I.E.L.D. organization. That is until S.H.I.E.L.D. comes crumbling down in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and that basic premise for the show mostly just gets thrown out the window within the first season of the show. Hydra takes over, the status quo is reset, just go and watch the movie, you know what I'm talking about. So, when the show and Marvel Television was a production unit, and it first premiered in fall 2013, the idea for the TV unit was to cross over concepts from the films into any and all of the television series that it produced. This included character appearances, plot devices, and ideas meant to be used for later films, such as The Inhumans, back when it was announced as a Phase 3 film to be released after Infinity War. Everyone who knows me knows that I love a good crossover, and certainly Crossover Lord also loves his crossovers as well. I freaked out anytime that Jasper Sitwell, Lady Sif, and especially Nick Fury, when they all popped up into the TV show. It was great, and it made me giddy as a schoolgirl. But the show truly shined brightest when it focused on the characters it created from scratch / had to play with from the comics, without focusing on the bigger movie ideas. It also worked really well in shorter arcs compared to typical 22-episode season-length stories. It's certainly a show that had its ups and downs. Being a Joss Whedon project, it focused more on its characters rather than overall narrative. Jed Whedon, brother to Joss, was a showrunner on the show from the get-go, so this was pretty consistent throughout the entire duration of the series. What was truly interesting to me as a fan of the show was that I always forgot how good it was. I'd take breaks from it every few weeks and then play catch-up on Hulu all at once because I was typically so invested with the DC shows on the CW and the Marvel Netflix shows, obviously. I was more enthralled by the crossover elements in those stories, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. became so good when it no longer was using those crossover elements to tell all of its stories. It freed itself from its own shackles, and while I never view crossovers as a bad thing, by all means, I can see how it limits storytelling when you only have so many options to play with, things that you're allowed to use for your storytelling. Basically, the scraps that Marvel Studios didn't want / not having access to the Spider-Man or the X-Men family of characters. It utilized what it had and focused on itself, basically ignoring the events of Infinity War and Endgame, ultimately, by the end. It kind of works out that way, by the end of the series, so if you know about the science of Endgame and everything that goes into the quantum realm and all that stuff, you would know what I'm talking about in this case. This show was on the brink of cancellation more often than not, but it was looking very real at the end of Season 5. What they did was they took a character concept from the comics that was introduced in Season 1, Episode 3, basically never mentioned it again at all. I'm talking about the gravitonium that was used in that one episode, that if you know the comic book source material, is the powers behind Graviton, a major, I would say, not a C-list Marvel villain, but definitely like a powerhouse guy. Basically, he had earthquake powers. You didn't want to mess with him, and he was a legitimate threat when he came across the Avengers. The producers realized that season 5 could be their last season, and they took that forgotten plot device, the Gravitonium, and they used it to fuel the rest of that final season. They followed through on almost all of their promises up till that point throughout the show with various villains and, some of their hero development, but that one was always the biggest letdown until they actually made the Graviton character the main baddie for season 5, and then they finally brought everything full circle. To everyone's surprise after that, they got greenlit for 2 more seasons, shockingly enough. This bastard child of a show lasted 7 seasons in total because it was really good by the end, and it made something truly unique for the superhero medium landscape. The fact that they could tell stories over 100 episodes long of these regular people in this marvelous world, it's an accomplishment on its own. So I tip my cap to the S.H.I.E.L.D. unit, the television unit. I give it a very high recommendation. I'm pretty sure every season is on Netflix now. I could be wrong. The final episode just premiered last month, or maybe it was the end of July. I don't remember. Basically, it was in the summer that the show came to a conclusion. I'm pretty sure season 7's on Netflix. If it's not, I could be wrong, but it should be coming soon, if not otherwise. And I have to salute the end of a successfully experimental era in superhero-dom. Also, have to give a huge shout out to Clark Gregg for adding so many depths and layers to what was originally a blank character that kind of had no name in like the first 3 movies of the MCU. The show truly doesn't work without him. But to be fair, the cast of characters is stellar as well.
I just have to interject real quick because I'm reading here that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7 is launching on Netflix today.
What? No way!
That's what it says.
Wow.
On according to NetflixLife.com. After a quick Google search, I had to let you know because that's hilarious if it's
brilliant.
True. That's what I'm reading. It's
you
available
can't script this,
as
folks.
of today. So if you get pumped from Merrick's review, then go watch it today.
It's all connected. Oh, man. Well, let me keep hyping it up then. Got to talk about the rest of the stellar cast as well. Certainly Ming-Na Wen, who plays an absolute badass. And if you don't know who Ming-Na Wen is, she is the original voice of Mulan from the 1998 animated film. So it is a badass voice actress playing a badass character, and it's great. You have Chloe Bennett, you have Brett Dalton, Henry Simmons, Natalia Cordova-Buckley, Elizabeth Henstridge, Ian DeCasteker. While I'm not going to go into like all of their name breakdowns or anything, it's a really solid cast of actors. Everyone gets their chance to shine, and no one ever feels like the weakest link in the show, and I think that's great. They all did a wonderful job portraying these characters when they were essentially a cleanup crew for the Avengers to start. And that's not even an exaggeration. In one part of the series, they actually clean up after a Thor: The Dark World post-credit scene. Like the little blue creature thing that's running through like the junkyard in London, like that kind of thing. They're cleaning up after that. Like, so they're trying to make it as connected as possible. You had to be all in on this show to make it work from a production standpoint, from the producers to the cast to the crew to directors and everyone else involved. And they had a cast that was all in. There wasn't any backstage drama, which you don't always get with some of these shows that go on for a really long time, especially after the 100-episode mark. They overcame some dysfunction at the overall top of their television unit, in my opinion, which we have covered previously on this channel here. This was a good group of people making something special for superhero TV. And I just simply can't recommend it enough. And now you can watch it all on Netflix. Crazy.
That's what I'm reading.
So definitely go check it out. I think it's worthwhile. It's a wonderful companion piece where eventually it branches out to its own thing. So I recommend that.